Hi everyone, just starting a few minutes early to get various things set up. Let me get out of Discord. Turn everything else off that might cause a problem. Although I don't actually know what that is. What is that? Ready. And then we'll start proper in 5 minutes as usual, nice and on time. Hi there, Mahal. Yeah, I saw your message on Patreon. But if you look at that, I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily call it a vodcast as such, because although I just put it on YouTube, I think it's a bit different when it's done live like that. But it just seems to be just pure podcasts. And I don't think you can really just make something like that as a podcast, because there are pauses in it and stuff like that. I think really for a podcast, you need at least 2 people, just to make sure that the conversation all ticks over and stuff like that. And I think that's what people would expect when they're downloading a podcast as well. Bit tricky to do that solo. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, that's right. I was explaining to some people yesterday about the Netherlight Crucible again. I mean, it's literally the case that are they? I think though, yeah, I mean, in these ones it does, like, there are pauses and stuff in it like that, and you can imagine just listen. If you're watching it, you sort of know what's going on. But if you're listening to it, you think, what's happening? Is it ended? There's something wrong with my equipment, something like that, and you just think, I mean, in theory, like, a repository of places that do these sorts of things would be a useful thing to get on, but it would be different if it sort of put regularly scheduled streams of this sort of stuff. But it's just really... well, it says podcasts anyway, and I would expect that people that go there are expecting podcasts as a result. I need to come and play some pop with you. I'm not even sure what that is. And by not sure, I mean I have no idea. PvP, I most certainly do not. Anyway, discussion tonight. But PvP is the last thing. I thought I was going to be getting a dose of it tonight as well, because I went on just to quickly do some of the world quests that give AP. There was a big gang of horde going around killing all the same bosses I was. Fortunately, they were very pleasant people. They didn't actually attack me. I'm not sure. I mean, I probably would have taken a few down. I don't think they were brilliantly geared. I wouldn't have fancied my chances against the whole lot. But I think most people, to be honest, are not really into ganking or anything like that. They're just getting the stuff done. I am fine, thank you, Pinky. Are you? Starting proper in 2 minutes. I'll just put it up early just to make sure everything's working, rather than do that at the start as usual. But it is now. That means we move it over here. You might hear some sounds. No, in fact, I'm going to turn off game. I'm on the PTR at the moment. Obviously you can't see. I'm just going to turn off the game sounds on it. And then we are starting with the Tuesday Talk, which I would guess, but can't possibly know, will largely be about the third and final major tranche of content for 7.3, which is of course now available on the North American servers, and we're just about waiting on the EU servers. I was almost ready to actually say, oh, this is... I quite like the way they've portioned it out. I think in general terms, I still quite like the way they've portioned it out over these 3 weeks, but I am not at all happy with the fact that I'm going to have to do more to get the Netherlight Crucible active tomorrow than I thought I would otherwise. But Pinky Tiger just asked a question. How many 955 item level drops have I seen from TOS? A few, actually. We even saw a 955 drop from Heroic TOS. And it was actually a very good item for me, but I passed on it because it's one of these awkward things. It was a non-tier chest. And I couldn't be, at the time, absolutely certain. It was nice stats as well. I couldn't be absolutely certain that it would be enough to break my dependence on the 2-piece tier 19. And obviously you can't, you know, bid on a 955 piece if you can't guarantee that you're going to wear it straight away. And so I just went there. Didn't bother to mess about simming. I just went, bugger it. Been working there. Has the raid bot's still been updated for the Crucible balance? Well, here's the thing. People tell me it has. Someone even tried to be helpful, and I mentioned this on Sunday on the mailbox, and someone tried to helpfully give me the link to it. So I sort of know in theory where I should be able to sim relics. It's just, I don't know why. It's me being really silly, but it just doesn't work. It just ignores me completely. I like put my details of my character in, you know, copy and paste the SimC stuff, and it just goes, very nice. What do you want me to do? Whereas the gear compare, no problem at all. You put it in gear compare, it goes, oh, here you are. Here's all your stuff. Put it in the relic thing, it just goes, what? So I don't know. But I'm sort of okay putting it into Simcraft. It is a palaver, but fortunately, and I think it's Skeletor who did this, I mustn't get it mixed up. I sometimes get him mixed up with Thordros, I don't know why. On Ret Paladin Discord, has actually extracted the codes for all of the tier 2 traits on the Netherlight Crucible, so I can actually just sim myself and see which I should be using, which is, you know, all you really need. Because I will get to unlock 2 of the tier 2 like bonus abilities tomorrow. So I need to know which ones. I made a mistake actually though on the PTR, because when I copied my character right at the start of this 7.3 PTR, oh, was it Thordros? I always get those two mixed up. I don't know why. They don't even have similar names. But anyway, sorry. Hi, everyone. So when I copied my character right at the beginning of PTR, and when I activated the Netherlight Crucible, I put my weapon in, and I had the most god-awful extra traits. They were terrible. Like the worst ones imaginable. And I thought, in a way, that's a good thing, because it's PTR. That means I've used up all my bad luck. I can only get good luck when it goes live. Now, wouldn't you know it, yesterday, because I was trying to explain to a couple of people in the guild how the Netherlight Crucibles work. So just to point out a couple of things, I went onto the PTR, I copied my current character again there. Obviously, it's now got better gear and everything. Slotted the weapon into the Netherlight Crucible, and I actually got really nice bonus relics. Like, really nice. I thought, this is fantastic. If I get this tomorrow, I am a happy chappy. And then I just suddenly thought about it. I thought, oh no, I've now just used up all my good luck on the PTR. So tomorrow I'll probably just get something mediocre, which I suppose is better than terrible. I'm assuming that's how luck works, but I don't know. Yeah, raid bots. It is sometimes tricky, of course, because with Simcraft, you can be quite clear about exactly what you're using. With raid bots, you're not always, because although it might say nightly, you know, you always think to yourself, have they updated it for today? At what time of day do they update it? Is it automatic? I don't know. I don't know. But, you know, if... because the thing is as well, it has had to be changed really recently. Because Blizzard, as if the Netherlight... Because this is the thing. As soon as people find out... The only reason I don't think there's been a huge outcry about the Netherlight Crucible is because most people don't actually know how it works. And I think as soon as people start to realise how it works... then I'm not saying everyone. Obviously, there must be some people who still think it's okay, because after all, the Blizzard development team think it's a good idea. You know, they're not in a bubble or anything. So there must be other players who will also like it. But so far, the people I've sort of talked to, as soon as they know how it works, it's like, this is terrible. This is absolutely awful. And so yeah, we'll just have to see how it works. But won't see accurate simulation. Oh yeah, that was it. So as if it wasn't annoying enough that they've made this thing as gargantuanly bad as it is, in my opinion. Yesterday, I was reading. Was it yesterday? It was yesterday. Blizzard posted last-minute tuning to the Netherlight Crucible. So there's people, theory crafters, working hard to get Simcraft updated for it, and then running sims. You know, someone on Ret Paladin did that, and Evening Manav. And then Blizzard have just gone, do you know what, we're retuning all these abilities. Nerfing some, buffing others. And you just think... So there might be some people who've just about got a handle on which... you know, how to sim their stuff, and it's all going to change. Obviously, Simcraft will. They're only basic buffs and nerfs, the sort of thing that's easily updated in Simcraft. But it means those poor buggers who've spent all that time using Simcraft to come up with lit, they'll have to do it again. Bin it, you know, they've wasted the weekend. Hi, you know, and you sort of expect this thing to happen. Often, it's not uncommon for tuning to happen right at the 11th hour, so to speak. But with something like this, which is a very, very new system, there's been nothing like this in the game before. And people, as I say, at the moment have a shaky grasp at best at how it works, unless you've actually been in the PTR and properly looked at it. I mean, I don't know if anything, you know, I mean, of course, North America have got it now. I'm not sure for how long, but... they've already got it. I don't know what people are starting to think about it there. I should be very curious. And then there's another thing, yeah. So it's like really annoying because the Argus patch in general, 7.3, I think has been handled pretty well. I think they've definitely learnt lessons from 7.2. I think there are some things that are a clear improvement. And then they do things like the Netherlight Crucible, not just in terms of what it is, but the way it's been implemented. And then again, for the second time today, I got the Argussian Reach. I don't know if it's been like for everyone else. Emissary cache, or quest, I should say. For which now you only need 3. It's like Kirin Tor, you only need 3 quests because there are so few of them. And I went on today and there's only 2. I'm thinking... I mean, I know one's going to come up again at some point. Maybe even tonight. Or if worse comes to worse, I can do it tomorrow. And to be honest, I'm probably better off doing it tomorrow because I'll have another artifact knowledge and I'll get more AP out of it. But still, I mean, that's just a spectacular amount of fail, that, isn't it? You have an emissary cache for that particular day when there are not enough world quests up at any one time to do it. So... I don't understand that. I don't understand how you can actually allow that sort of thing to happen, really. But anyway, well, it's just like you couldn't make up that level of stupidity. Because I don't also understand why these Argussian Reach quests seem to be located in Macquarie, mostly. You get the odd one in Corcoran, which is where they seem to be. It did, yes, it did indeed. That's why the Kirin Tor was moved down from 4 to 3, and it's why the Argussian Reach was moved down from 4 to 3 when it came out last week. Because that's what was doing me. Because it was this time last week, wasn't it? Well, it was actually last Wednesday for me. When so yeah, Argussian Reach came out. There was one quest I could do, and it was like, where am I going to get the rest from? It turned out that in theory was okay, because as soon as you did the Macquarie quest lines, then they unlocked. But that meant I had to have time to do that, fitted it around work and everything else I do. I certainly couldn't do it on the day it came out, but you know, I did it in time, so there's no point in moaning about it. But this time it's just happened, you know, they've reduced it from 4 to 3 this time, which they did part way through it last time, to be fair. By the time I actually did it, it only needed 3. And but it's happened again this week. It's like, how can you only have 2? You should just make the game have at least 3 active, and not including, because apparently there is technically a 3rd one at the moment for me anyway. Obviously it might be slightly different, although it shouldn't be different really, should it, for everyone else. And it's one in Corcoran. Like when you click on the Argussian Reach symbol, it highlights it, but there's 2 things about it. First of all, it's for handing in 40 flowers. I'm not handing in 40 flowers, they're my flowers, get off. And second of all, it still says Army of the Light on the quest instead of Argussian Reach. I am reliably informed that it covers for Argussian Reach. No reason to doubt it, but it doesn't say that. And again, it's a crafting related one. Now, I'm not a herbalist on that character. I am a herbalist on another. I could easily just send myself 40 flowers, or I could go on the auction house, but bugger that, no. I'm not sure about that with the Kirin Tor. I remember it used to be 4 right when they first brought it out, and then they quickly changed it to 3. But I can't... Was there still a situation where even that wasn't enough? I don't remember. You missed things like the light and how to swing it. Would you be referring to the book that led to the trinket in vanilla, or is this something else? Ralph's. Hi, Lamnacken. But, I mean, it's just these, it's minor things. I mean, it's only minor things. It's nothing to grumble about, yeah, vanilla, yeah, the diamond stuff. I mean, we sort of have things like that now, don't we? Except we're just in the form of world quests. We go and find world quests instead of books. But, hang on, start doing that. There we go. The, I just, yeah, I mean, it's one of these, it's not worth getting het up about. You know, you're a bit petty to moan too much about it, but it's just minor little things that just spoil the whole package, really. Especially as the whole purpose of these emissary caches being on a 3-day thing is that, in theory, you could miss a couple of days and then catch up. Well, what if today was the day when someone could come on and do stuff, and then the next 2 days they can't? It's like, well, it's too late. They're going to miss it. Do I think Blizzard will carry on with the class theme stuff for the next expansion? No, I don't. They have said themselves, like, you'll notice there's been less and less. Like at the start, it was all class and spec stuff. You had you had 36 artifacts. There wasn't actually really 36 artifact quest lines because they borrowed a lot of assets for some of them. So there was sort of, some of them were very unique. Some of them were sort of borrowing each other's stuff. But nonetheless, that was a lot of class stroke spec specific stuff. And then there was some more of it later. And it got less. Like in Blizzard even said it himself. Ian Hazakostas, I think it was, who said, the problem is when you do a class quest, you're serving 1/12 of the player base. Assuming they all play roughly the same proportion of that class, which is not always the case. But you take their point. It's a quest chain that you are putting development time in that is accessible to only so many people, because yes, some people have alts as well, but only so many of them are active on those alts, so that's quite a small proportion. So I think just from that statement and the fact that you'll notice there's no class specific stuff really now in this new patch suggests to me that They're not enamoured of it. They don't see it as an efficient use of development time. So, although I'm not going to say they definitely won't do any class-specific stuff in the future, if they did, I think it would probably just be one thing in a whole expansion, as opposed to aiming to bring out one thing a patch. They might do something like the Mage Tower again, but it would be like there'd be one event in the entire expansion, is how I read what they're saying about it, and in terms of what I'm seeing with my eyes in terms of content that's coming up. So you've got the Crucible unlocked. Could you remind me then? So JRC, because I can't remember, it's so long ago since I unlocked it on the PTR. Because what I was really annoyed at is I did the Macquarie quest line last week when the reset came out, or not straight away, and then I was actually on the stream on Saturday, and I was thinking to myself, because someone said something, I just thought, oh, actually, there's a fair amount of questing that isn't unlocked here that I remember doing. So I'm pretty sure I have to do that for the Netherlight Crucible. And then I'm trying to think, I'm fairly sure, but I'm not absolutely certain, that I had to do the dungeon as well. So what is it we have to do to unlock the Netherlight Crucible? Because it's not live yet on the EU. And I'm not going to have very long at all before the raid when I get home tomorrow to do it. I need to make sure that I'm not missing out on plus 15 item levels. No way. That's worth a lot to me. I mean, the reason why Rets aren't getting a buff tomorrow or today in North America is because we actually benefit a lot from item level. Didn't have to do the dungeon. Okay, I thought we did. Okay, I'm misremembering then. Is it just the extra quest line in Macquarie then, and that's it? And then just go back to the Vindicar? Yeah, I remember doing the quest line. Right, okay. Oh, so you don't have to do the quest then where you sort of do a flashback with Velen then? And that guy in the north of Macquarie who taunts Velen. Was that not part of it? No, it means, Mahal, that he's seen what the traits are. So when he gets to them, they're going to be good. No one's got 75. Hold on, I'm missing things now. So, wonder if spec will determine how Crucible is received. I think it will. Simply because there are some specs who don't give... Like I was talking, like our raid leader is a Boomkin. He says Boomkins don't really give a crap about traits. So there's some specs for whom traits can be worth a downgrading item level of a relic. Obviously, those specs like us, like Rets, we care about what traits we get. They might not be as bad. They have toned out our best ones down a little bit, but we still care a lot. So yes, we can. But a Boomkin, apparently, it's like there's some traits that are nice, but they'll just take the item level over anything. So they're not that arsed. So I think it definitely will be that some specs will be more bothered than others. Absolutely, without question. In fact, looking at the buff Windwalker's got, I can imagine they must be one as well, because they're getting a plus 9% buff tomorrow. Item level for them must be worthless. So they must really care about what trait they get. I know nothing about Windwalkers, but reading into it, that's what I would think. Sorry, I'm going to have to job to get through this question now. Thinking about the PvP realm. Who hate PvP but don't want to pay for a realm transfer. See, what I would like... See, I was thinking about that, Lamnaka. What I would like, now that you have connected realms anyway... Now, I'm going out of focus. I know that... obviously, the reason to connect realms is so that you can have pissy little servers all brought together, so it's like one medium-sized server. But I think they should probably actively connect not all realms together. That would be nice, but they're not going to do that. But all realms have a connection, such that you always have a PvP realm and a PvE realm connected. Which means that you can join any guild, as long as it's in your region, And you just choose to transfer to whichever realm is the one that you want to do. So if you like World PvP, then you join the PvP realm that's attached to that connected realm. And if you don't, like in my case, I would go on the PvE realm and still be able to join that guild, you know, but I'm on the PvE bit and don't have to put up with the World PvP crap. Now, obviously, there'll be some technical issues with that, but it's not insoluble. So anyway, God, so many comments at once, and then it'll be like not for ages. World PvP, yeah, I would love. I was on a PvE realm for so long, and then it right up until the end of MOP, and then I just gave up. I couldn't find decent guilds there. I'm not saying none exist, because some do, but I couldn't find any at the time I was looking. That is, and so I just gave up, and I decided to go to PvP realm. I like how ESO does realms, because there aren't any, basically. There are servers, but there are no realms. But, of course, Blizzard would lose a lot of money if they did that, so they're not going to. They've got the technology easy to do it, but they're not going to. Talgrath, that's it. Oh, right, yeah, okay, thanks. So I'm still reading back, sorry. So, yeah, I remember. Okay, so it's that one, and then I can't remember. It's ages since I've done those quests. Yeah, this is what's annoying me, that I might have a fair amount of questing to do to get it. But if it's just the questing and not the dungeon, I should be okay. I should be alright. I don't think there's traits worth 40 plus item levels anymore. I'm not sure. Was there ever? There's not anymore, though. They have sort of tackled that. But there are still some traits, relic traits, that are worth dropping item level 4 to get. Right. Well, no, I mean, I'm fine. I have noticed being ganked, or attempted to be ganked. Not being killed that much. Like, twice, I think. But, because it's mostly as well, I don't understand this. Well, I do. I suspect I understand it. Because it seems to be mostly people in really crap gear. It's like, what do you hope to achieve? Seriously. You know. Because some of these people die in a few hits. And it's like, I'm not a very good PvPer. Why are you attacking me? I can understand it if there's a few mates with them. But even then, if they're in crap gear, if they die in a few hits, I'm going to kill them still. It'll just mean I'll have to kill them in 9 hits instead of 3. Guild came up with an interesting notion. Keep out honey holes in it. Move a mythic guild to a low pop, free transfer realm. Easy recruiting for WoW progress because anyone can transfer for free. Yeah, that won't last long. The server population will not increase. That's the thing now. Blizzard used to do... I don't know that they even do free transfers now. They may. I don't know. I've not seen one in Europe for a while anyway. If... I don't think they work. People just have it in their head. If they want to join... They just don't increase because there are already so many large and medium connected... Because they just connect them now. Connected realms. That you can't foster it. Especially as Blizzard don't seem to be really fostering new players either. Because trying to increase the population of a realm is usually done with new players. They try to con new players. It's like suggested realms. Oh, go to this realm. It's really low pop. It would be fantastic. And they try and... Because they know that experienced players aren't going to be that stupid. No, I haven't noticed one recently on the fridge. Because I say I don't think it makes any sense to do it. If they've got a low pop realm, they'll just connect it to another. But my argument is, why not just connect it? Connect a really crap one to a large one, where one is a PvP one and the other one's a PvE. Then you can have, and do that, you know, do that. And then you can have a situation where... Because I get the thing every time when I moan about World PvP, it's like, well, you chose to go onto a PvP server. It's like, no, I didn't. I chose to join a guild. No choice of mine. on that server. I can't say when I apply to a guild, I really like your guild, really like to join it, but would you mind transferring to Silver Moon? Then I'll join you. It's like, no. Could you imagine? And Silver Moon, there is only one Alliance PvE realm, effectively, on the EU servers now, and that's Silver Moon. And whenever I've looked for a guild, they've never had any guilds looking. Have I seen vanilla screenshots from 2005 of this quality? Well, no, because it's a deleted link. So I wouldn't have done. So that's not going to work. Possibly not. The problem is that people link naughty things. Without an army of moderators, you're a bit screwed. Because it's very annoying when I have to moderate anything. The most I will do is ban someone if they start taking the piss. Which doesn't happen that often, but occasionally. But even that's a pain in the neck. Exactly. Oh, well, there's that too. Yes, quite. Quite. I don't know. I mean, I actually don't have any screenshots left from vanilla because they were all lost. I have so many computers since then, and sometimes I transfer like pictures and video from one computer to another when I get a new one, and sometimes I don't. So eventually, over time, all the vanilla ones have gone. But I only had I can't remember what computer I had. It wasn't a brilliant one, but I don't have a gnome icon now. What do I have now? I have... Because you're only allowed... You're not actually allowed very many thingies. Whatchamacallits. I have a Murloc, Mercadin, and a couple of an Ashbringer and something else that I can't remember. Hi, Tagron. Yeah, But whatever rig I had, I remember, because if you look at any videos, I didn't make any videos in vanilla, but I made a few in TBC, and the screen's really small, and it's because I was playing on a 14-inch cathode ray tube monitor. When did I start raiding? Yeah, Molten Core. Well, I suppose technically the first raid was UBRS, but obviously the first like raid Molten Core. It was, when did I start? Around about September 2005. I started playing in May 2005, so it's quite a while before I sort of properly got into it. But then on my realm, although there were some guilds that got into it fairly quickly, it took a long time for the raid scene to really start. It was really weird how things work. So I was on Esjul Nerub EU, and I don't know whether it was like this on other ones. I suppose in those days, individual realms could have had their own particular character, so it might have been different. But I distinctly remember, so I started playing in May, around about my birthday, 2005. I got to level... It took me a long time to get to level 60 because I took ages over it because I wasn't rushing and I was spending so long, like I was trying to keep up with my professions as I did it. That takes a long time, especially tailoring and enchanting. Well, the tailoring wasn't so bad. Enchanting, oh my god. And so I had to... Because you couldn't make, like, there was no Vela, like you could... put it on and put it on the auction house. You had to enchant people's things directly. So I had to spend a lot of time in Ironforge selling enchants to be able to fund the next, well, to skill up for a start and then to fund the next level of skilling up. Well, it was especially slow for me. I don't know it was that bad. How do I remember all the details about the dungeons, Ralph? Because I did them a lot. I did them a lot. Because even when you were a raider, there were good reasons to do dungeons. I used to use them as recruitment for pit. So I used to still join pugs. We didn't used to do them in the guild. I used to join... Well, there were two types of dungeon I used to do once I got into proper raiding. One was I would do them in pugs to try and spot any talent, to try and, you know, nick them from whatever guild they were in and get them to join us. Because you didn't have, like, logs then, and you didn't have other ways of spying on people. You just had to go out and see people in action. And the second reason we used dungeons was to try out like trials, like healers and tanks particularly. Because DPS you could sort of see how they were doing in raids. Healers and tanks were a bit more difficult because for a tank, you weren't going to give them the job of main tank just as a brand new trial. And there were loads of tanks. So you'd be giving them something. Raiding as a tank was much easier than raiding as a dungeon. So a dungeon was a much better test. And then so what we'd say is we'd get a group of us together, like a healer and 3 DPS, and we would tell the DPS to pull everything, to show no mercy to this tank, not hold back on aggro or anything like that. And that's what we did, to give them a rough time of it, to see how good they were adapting and keeping up and all the rest of it. Because usually in a pug it'd be the tank that goes screaming ahead. No, not with our Tess. But you know, you'll be like, DPS, just pull whatever your aggro's, you just start hitting it, see if the tank can get it off you. And then if it was a healer we were testing out, we would tell everyone to be reckless. We'd tell the tank not to stop. If the healer said, that for the tank meant out of mobs. You go and get more. You don't stop for anything. So we used to do like Strathome speedruns before there was such a thing as a Strathome speedrun officially. We used to do our own. And we'd tell the DPS to be reckless. If any DPS, like, you know, had, like I'd go on my Paladin as DPS sometimes, if we had the ability to cleanse, don't let them do all the cleansing and stuff like that. And yeah, so we'd give tanks and healers a rough time just to try them out. And that was all we did. But yeah, I mean, that's why I remember so many details about those dungeons, because I just did them all the time. When I wasn't raiding, that is. Which is still quite a lot of the time. Well, we didn't. I mean, you could test DPS out in the raid because you could use the damage meters, but also keep an eye on what they were doing. There were still mechanics to do, and you also had to make sure they didn't pull threat. I mean, that's how you tested a DPS. Are they doing good DPS without pulling threat? That was ultimately it. And are they not dying? It was as simple as that. Whereas healers and tanks, it was more difficult to see if they were any good in a raid situation, because the main tank might have some trickiness to do in a raid boss, but even then it wasn't that bad. But you're not going to give the job of main tank to a brand new recruit. So you just wanted them to tank an ad or something. Well, any fool can do that. But what then happens when you... I mean, I'll tell you how bad some of these tanks could be. When we got to Nefarian in Blackwing Lair, there was a situation there where in the first phase, you're not actually fighting Nefarian. He's just popping around firing shadow bolts at everyone. So you've got these 2 gates along one wall, and Draconids come out of each one of a particular colour. You sort of had to... It works differently. It was sort of random each week. So you had to have one pull where you just saw which ones they were and then dealt with it. But the bottom line is you needed tanks to grab them. Oh, hello. Sorry. I can't see me dancing Murloc. There we go. What was it called now? Yeah, so you needed... And we put 3 tanks at each of the gates to grab them, because otherwise they'd just aggro straight onto the healers. And then the DPS would DPS them down. But we had a problem. Because when we split our 3 tanks there, most of the tanks were too crap to grab hold of them as they went past. So they kept mugging the healers. So then we tried... We only had... Basically, we had 6 warrior tanks. Only 3 of them were any good. And so we tried splitting it up. So we had 2 good tanks and then 1 good tank on the other side. Still didn't work. So what we ended up doing is putting all 3 of the good tanks on one side. We'd put all 3 of the shit tanks on the other. And then I would go on that other one, just consecrating. So they would aggro onto me. I was a paladin, I could take it. And then they would pick them off me in their own sweet time. And that's how we solved that one. Right, okay, if you're going to go to sleep, let's have a look at this one. Did I personally feel the change to the way the game felt after Blizzard made the ability queue change at the tail end of Wrath? I wasn't playing at the tail end of Wrath is the problem with answering that question. So I stopped playing World of Warcraft at the end of Nax because I was so appalled that it was such a terrible... and I thought, you know, because literally it took me a week to get to level cap, and it took me like 3 days to clear all the raid content after getting to level cap. And I thought, if this is... and after that, it was just achievements to do. Well, I wasn't interested in that. I thought, if this is how it's going to be, this game is going to the dogs. Now, I didn't know that going to follow it was Ulduar, which is considered one of the finest, if not the finest raid ever to come out. But I didn't know about that. I was just looking at this and thinking, is this what Wrath of the Lich King is? And I decided to stop playing. And then when I came back, I mean, I sort of came back on a very casual basis for ICC, but it was super casual. Like, you know, a friend sort of said, oh, you know, just play with us. And it was so rubbish guild. They certainly weren't doing any competitive raiding or anything like that. So and then I didn't even play casually at the end of it. So I don't, you know, I mean, there would have been a lot of changes when I eventually come back. I came back right at the end of Violence, so for Dragon Soul Encounter. So a lot of things would have changed then. I can't remember what I noticed at the time. So unfortunately, I can't really say anything about that period of time. I don't remember when Warrior Slam had a cast time, though. I did have a Warrior in Vanilla, but I don't remember much about it. But, yeah, I mean, I can imagine Ulduar was probably a lot of fun to do. Obviously, having been in... I mean, first of all, I went through it with... because when I came back with my old... Because I created the character with my friend's guild on Horde, so I just created new characters. I didn't transfer anything. So my other character I occasionally popped on. And because you had these, like, weekly raid, killer raid boss type thing, I used to go with my old guild, who were a very competitive... They were, you know... a very competitive guild. They got decent world ranks, and they used to sort of drag me through those. So that's how I got to see it at first. And I sort of thought, yeah, it looked pretty epic. It looked pretty good. His voice acting is so, but it's not that bad. You've got Bernard Hill doing Tyrion, for goodness sake. Can't be that bad. But I'm not a fan of voice acting, I have to say, in games. I'd rather just have the text. Just tell me what it is. It annoys me when you get the talking head pop up, even though I've tried to put it in as unobtrusive place as possible. It's what put me off Star Wars The Old Republic when I was playing that on the beta before. That's why I didn't play it when it was properly released, even though I'd bought it. It was like, I'm really not keen on this voice acting malarkey. I've sort of got used to it now, but I still don't actively like it. Yeah, whenever you make a major change to something in the game, you are obviously going to turn a lot of people off. Because if you think about it, people were playing the game because they really liked it. Now, you change some aspect, inevitably, you will be changing something that some of those players really liked about it. So you do risk losing players every time you have a massive change. But it could be, from the developer's point of view, they will judge it as they potentially risk losing more players if they don't. So sometimes they'll be right and sometimes they'll be wrong. You can never say whether they were right or wrong, because the only way you can do that is to have two parallel universes. You do it in one or you do it in the other. But I can't do that. You started when Legion launched. Have Ret Paladins ever been top dog? Yes, ironically, when I left the game. Apparently, well, actually, I felt pretty good, you know, at the start of Wrath for those 3 days when we had some raiding to do. But apparently, yeah, Ret Paladins were very good. And, yeah, that was it. The period of time when I wasn't playing the game, I missed it. It's more fun to be the underdog anyway. The greater the odds, the greater the glory. 7.3 undocumented forced personal loot in vanilla dungeons. I made a couple of... Oh, I see. The weirdest voice on a boss ever for me was in Serpent Shrine Cavern, because the first boss was a Duke something, the water elemental. Can't remember. It was a Duke, but it was a Duke something, right? And the character voice sounded distinctly female to me. I thought it's like the first gender confused boss, really. Because that threw me a little bit. Hydros, yes. I don't know whether it was me, but it sounded female, the voice. But it was a Duke something. It's like, okay. But other than that, I don't really remember. Some voices sound better than others, I think. They usually sound like, you know, like they should, like you'd expect them to. Can I move that down a bit so we can see it a bit better? Was unstable, yes. I don't know. You've got some, like Thrall's got a fairly deep voice. He's not evil. Does Illidan talk weirdly? Oh, I think it's quite well acted, Illidan. Yeah, see, that's one of the things, again, I wouldn't have noticed, because I didn't play much Horde at all before I left the game, and when I came back, I wouldn't have even noticed a change. I didn't. First, I've heard about it that the voice is even changed. I know the model changed. I noticed that she changed her look, and I suppose every now and then they probably have to change the voice. You know, as one actor or actress disappears off, they get another one in. I think, to be fair, Illidan has got every right to be a little bit angry. I think he is quite angry. Yeah, again, most of these things I don't pay that much attention to. I'm not even very good at remembering. Like, there's so many things personal to people that I'm very bad at remembering. I'm very bad at remembering names, faces. When it comes to it, voices. This is why I'm having a terrible time at the moment. At the start of every academic year, I already have... Good night, Ralphs. I already have a bad time trying to learn my new students' names as it is. And this year I've got loads. I've got like 120 new names to learn. And I'm just thinking... I always feel as well, it's the second week now of seeing them. I always feel by the end of the second week I should probably know most of them. So I'm going to have to really sit down and properly learn them. I don't know how. Do I make the new GCSE grading system random comment comes out? It's stupid because it's just there to confuse everyone. Like, people just don't understand what it is. Teachers don't even understand what it is. We don't actually know what they're doing with it. I'm teaching science. Make them wear name tags. No, because then you sort of give... Like, I can just keep asking them who they are. It's just that after a while, you sort of feel you should probably have learnt their names. And I just feel it's a little... Like, I feel it... And the second... I'm fine for the first 2 weeks asking who they are. And I'll just keep... When I ask them a question, keep trying to use their name to try and get it in my head. But it's not just the name. If it was just the names, then you'd get away with it. But it's names and faces and voice and everything. I just forget. So all they have to do is come dressed in something differently, which of course they're going to do. Or sit in a different place, which again they're going to do. Well, you won't be able to. That's the problem, Tigron. Like, I don't mind, but it's any links that go in will automatically be not in. Is how it should work. But if I... Hold on. I mean, we could easily look up the name of the boss and then people would just be able to look it up themselves, wouldn't they? I haven't learnt the names of most, or even the order of the bosses. Oh, okay. cunning. I was just going to look it up anyway. What was it? Garothi World Breaker. But I haven't done any maybe there's certain ones where it's fine with it, like YouTube ones, where it knows it can't be that bad. Yeah, because I tempted fate in the stream last night for people on it. I was just saying last night how for over a week now none of my videos have been flagged with this new algorithm, that's this bot that's floating around, you know, banning, well, not banning, but demonetizing people's videos. And it's happened to me on, like, not every video, but every now and then. But then for over a week, there's none at all. And I thought, oh, you know, maybe it's learning that my videos are actually okay. Because every time I reviewed it, it's come back clean. And then last night, one did get flagged. But again, I put in a review and I've come on today and it's like, oh, it's fine. Again, it's like, well, why are you wasting my time? And their time. It's not doing them any good either. But it might, the fact that the frequency has gone down, even though there's nothing different about the type of content I'm doing, maybe suggests that the bot is learning. I mean, it's not as bad for me. I mean, at least it is coming back. I mean, for a start, I'm not one of these people who makes a load of money in the first 24 hours off it, or indeed ever. And the second thing, I suppose, is it does at least come back. Sometimes it takes a few days, though. That's when it's awkward. But this one, it like took less than 12 hours. And to get reviewed, and it's all come back now. I'm looking now, with bated breath, but I haven't put any new videos on since Sunday, so there shouldn't be any reason why any more would have been flagged. But yeah, that's all fine. But you feel bad for the people who are doing something that's not considered ad friendly, even though you sort of think it sort of is, isn't it? But that's just, you just have to adapt, don't you? But yeah, it's just a bit annoying that, you know, mine stuff always comes back. It's not like they keep coming back and going, oh no, you shouldn't really do that now. It's all fine. It just takes a variable amount of time for them to determine that. It's like guilty until proven innocent. If I had to pick a 5-man dungeon group, lore characters. It's very difficult to say. I'm not going to pick any dead lore characters, because if they're dead, then they weren't that good. You pick Khadgar, he'd probably be a safe pair of hands. Terralion. Sourfang's still alive, isn't he? I think Sourfang's still alive. Garrosh is dead, he's useless. I killed him. And then Thrall killed him again. Yeah, so we'll have Sourfang as the tank. Velen can heal. He's alright. So what have we got? Sourfang as the tank. Velen healer. Terralion. Khadgar. Yeah, Lyria. We're not going to split those two up, do we? Yeah, there we go. That'll do. That'll be a good dungeon group. We'll be leaving Arator out again. I'm not sure what he'll say to that. Never mind. But yeah, I'm not picking dead ones. Dead ones have died. Don't need people who keep dying. I mean, Velen's been going for like thousands of years. What, 25,000 years since he left Argus the first time. Goodness knows how old he was at that point. Although they seem to keep showing him as much younger then. So maybe, I don't know, at most probably another 10,000 years old by then. Terralion reckons he's over 1,000 years old now as well, but I think he's lying. Maybe they found a planet where every year is like 2 days or something. Black, no, most of those are dead. Failures, utter failures. Who's going to heal out of that lot? Who's going to heal them? Warriors are useless without their pocket healer. We can't do anything. I mean, that was always what I liked. In fact, that was a bit of a shock when I came back to the game in Cataclysm. Because I always used to joke about gnomes. That you could never, at least you could never make a party out of them because they can't heal. And then Cataclysm, they introduced the gnome priest. Knackered it all. So all of a sudden you could have an entire party of gnomes. Because I remember in TBC, sometimes you get people doing like, I'm not saying it was always a great idea, but like all Paladin or all Druid groups for like Karazhan runs. Tauren anything, really. You can just about get away with Tauren Druids, because they shapeshift anyway, it's fine. Or most of them do. I can't... Yeah, nothing else seems to work. You'll forgive a Tauren prot warrior, I suppose. Or an arms warrior might just about get away with it. Well, I can't really see it for anything else. It doesn't make sense. I mean, lore-wise, you could sort of get away with hunters. But, I mean, I always sort of imagined... Because when I was in vanilla, sometimes I would play other races just to try them out, just for a few levels. I mean, I was always going to play a paladin as main. But, you know, just to have a little feel of it. And I did a Tauren something. I can't remember what it was. I think it was a shaman. And again, on my screen, I didn't know about the macro to zoom all the way out or anything, so I could only zoom out as far as I could. And on my small 14-inch CRT monitor. And I couldn't see anything. I was like hitting stuff, and I couldn't see what I was hitting because the Tauren's big fat ass was in the way. And I thought, what would it be like if you had a Tauren hunter? So you'd have a big Tauren hunter sat on a Tauren Kodo mount, maybe with a Kodo pet as well. It'd just fill your screen up. You won't see anything. Garrosh is strong enough to solo a dragon. No, he isn't, is he? He's actually not. Semi-resist old god powers, not really. He didn't withstand. Like, Yasharaj was dead. He was dead. You saw in the cinematic in Talador, sorry, him getting his ass kicked. Admittedly, it took 2 of them to do it, but still. They were 2 weedy ones. Brox has a wooden axe. If you take him to a fire-based dungeon, he's in trouble. The Tauren starting area was also pretty uninspiring as well, yes. It was, yes. And the terrain was not helpful when you get to Thunderbluff either. That was just... It was just... it was like watching paint dry, being in the Tauren starting area. I've killed dragons. It's nothing that impressive. He probably killed a dragon that was way lower than him in level. He did have control over the heart sculpture, but it was the heart of a dead thing. It's a lot easier to resist an old god when the old god is dead. It's magical wood. No, I don't think there's anything on the label that says cannot be inflamed. I'm not sure Cenarius said that. I would still suggest, magical fire or not, you can set fire to it. They can't be killed. Who can't be killed? What am I missing? Hold on, sorry. Gold gods could be killed. Of course they can, yeah. Easy. The problem is we mustn't kill them. because Amun-Thul killed Yasharaj and it nearly killed Azeroth. So that was the thing. It's not that they can't be killed. They can. We killed one. Or Amun-Thul killed one. It was that they're so deeply rooted into Azeroth that it would kill Azeroth to kill them. So we just have to defeat them and keep them under wraps and lock them up. Yeah, well, Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron for a start wouldn't fit into a room like that anyway. It was just like we were basically poking splinters into their toe. That was a tiny little thing. The old gods themselves are the sizes of cities, huge sprawling things. So we only defeated Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron. We didn't actually kill them. It was just... No, we didn't hurt the World Cell then because we weren't killing them. We were just defeating them. We were just basically re-imprisoning them. They were poking their little toes out of bed and we stabbed them and they went back in. Yes. They're huge things. But I mean that's what we know at the moment. Obviously Blizzard are going to change all the lore again in the next expansion when they bring old gods back, because that's what they do now. I don't think they even bother with meetings where they get anyone to suggest to sort of work it into the current lore. They just change it. They just we'll make it all up again. They think they'll bring them back. The next expansion is much more likely to be N'Zoth related. There's no real need, and I think there's no real point in having multiple old gods in any given expansion. Velen heal it. Magni tank. Magni, who wants a tank made of glass? Chandris. Bane I'm okay with as well, even though he's a bit weedy too. You know. Garrosh killed it doesn't matter, it's still a mineral. Like, Garrosh killed Bane's dad, and what did Bane do about it? Bugger all, as far as I can tell. I'm not sure. Why do you think Chandris would be useful? Well, we don't know that. Well, I don't know that anyway. It all happened when I wasn't playing the game anymore. Blizzard, yeah, all of these sort of obscure relatives of much more major lore characters could easily make a return at certain points as they need, because it's a way of linking to characters that they can't bring back because they're dead. So it's a suitable device to bring back, and of course these people, as far as we can tell, are still alive. Everything, even because although it's now getting to be a fair while since the events of Warcraft 1, it's still in living memory. So Illyria has some very, very interesting storyline to come in the Argus thing. When you look at the data mine dialogue, not just the stuff that's obviously has been, well, not in Europe at the moment, but will be tomorrow, and has been released on the NA now. But yeah, she has a lot of major stuff coming. Yes, for looking into the void, yeah. So although Terralion wasn't particularly concerned about it. It was with the suggesting it was with the purpose of helping Zera. Although if Illyria wants to help Zera now, she needs to find a dustpan and brush. And a load of super glue. Yes, Manav. One of the most common complaints about the lore here is the timeline. How every major event has happened in such a short amount of time. Do I think WoW would benefit from a time jump of a couple of years? It needs to be more than a couple of years. I mean, the thing is, if you look at the lore, we had, in terms of major events before Warcraft, you had 10,000 years ago, the War of the Ancients. See you later, Pinky. Then you had the events of Warcraft 1, the invasion of Azeroth. And then, yeah, ever since then, it's been like rapid fire. So we had the Legion invade 10,000 years ago. Then we had them invade again in Warcraft 3. So 10,000 years apart there. Since then, we've had effectively an invasion of TBC. I mean, the pre-TBC event is when they attempted to. Then we went into the portal. And then they've done it again now in a much more direct way. So, yeah, it's all got very, very rapid. Well, there's all sorts of theory about Terralion there. But if Terralion was being... well, this is where... because I say someone posted a comment on one of my videos, which was very interesting, that potentially the Naru themselves are like on the same side as the Void, that they're part of the same thing, which is possible. That would be an interesting twist. And that the reason the Naru were supposedly helping us is because, well, what they're really doing is fighting against Sargeras' Burning Legion, because Sargeras' Burning Legion is a sworn enemy of the Void. Could come back from Argus with a time jump. Well, I mean, they're not... The thing is, as well, at some point you might think they do that, because remember, there's the prophecy of Valen, or Valen, whatever you want to say, which says that Anduin, as an old grizzled campaigner, will lead the army of the light. So if that's going to happen in World of Warcraft, there has to be a passive time. The problem with suddenly having a major jump in time is that some characters would have to die. Like Khadgar, you know, he doesn't have the powers of the guardianship, so we assume he doesn't have long life, that he's just got normal human life. In which, well, that thing with Velen anyway, I don't know whether it's even canon, because I don't, you know, it's hard to say what is anymore. It wasn't in the game as far as I know, so it was like a publication. So, you know, it's one of those things, maybe, maybe not. At the same time, they are adding verisimilitude to it by, you know, the way Anduin is going. He started off as a priest, and he's clearly moving towards the paladin role at the moment. Oh, I see what you mean. You mean time just shifts for us, but not... Yeah, but that wouldn't help us. I don't trust Blizzard's right. I think the only reason there's any sort of subtleties, or the only reason why there's as much lore as there is in World of Warcraft, is because of the novelists, the people who write the books. The game storylines are not that detailed. No, well, he was and he wasn't. Like, Khadgar was artificially aged during his fight with Medivh, when he became a really old man. The suggestion now is, but that was a spell that was put on him. So, but you remember, Khadgar changed between when we saw him in TBC. That was still that aging effect. But when he came back for WoD, they sort of changed his thing. So the suggestion is that he's removed that artificial age spell because he now looks, in terms of his current model, as old as he should be. Because you've got to remember, he's a contemporary of like Lothar and Lane. Lane is the grandfather of Anduin. So Khadgar is old enough, basically, to be Anduin's grandfather. So he should probably be someone who's in his 50s, which is sort of what he looks like. I would also hope they come up with new lore. My issue is, and like Mop, exactly that, Lamnakan, my issue is that people didn't seem to appreciate it in Mop. They loudly failed to appreciate it. And that means that... And then what do we get straight after it? A throwback to all the old lore characters that were really dead. So that's why we had the alternate universe rubbish. So it's one of those things where you sort of get the impression maybe Blizzard have been put off doing new lore. And I have no idea why. No, I don't think that's the only reason. Like the Pandaria Kung Fu Panda thing. I don't think it was just that. I think it was that in some people's mind. But it wasn't just that. Because there were people, there were commentators who were going, you know, when it came to, say, Throne of Thunder. Throne of Thunder as a raid is very well respected. It's right up there. But there were WoW commentators at the time basically going, I don't care about these characters because I don't know who they are. Now, it's not like there wasn't any development of the character with storylines leading up to it. There was. So ultimately what those people were meaning was these characters weren't about in Warcraft 1, 2 or 3, therefore I don't care about them. And what is baffling to me about that viewpoint is that there was constantly new lore and new characters being added in Warcraft 1, 2 and 3. Totally new. They never sort of resurrected old stories in those games. So why are they doing it in WoW? Why aren't they pushing it forward? But they're not. They keep just resurrecting old stuff. Well, yes, I mean, Mahal, people would think that the Pandaren was sort of made from scratch because even though, obviously, the Pandaren and the idea of Panda monks came before Kung Fu Panda, it was pretty clear when you look at the art for Pandaria that it was heavily influenced by the Kung Fu Panda cartoons. You know, and obviously, I can imagine, I don't know how this works, but I can imagine the only reason Blizzard got away without any copyright thing is because they can say, actually, I think you'll find we came with Kung Fu Pandas first. You copied off us and there'd be like some countersuit or something like that. Because, yeah, Chen Stormstout was in Warcraft 3 and he was clearly a panda who could do Kung Fu. Or something very similar to it. Yes, yeah, the Thunder King was supposed to be very powerful. But as I say, the thing is, although it was a new lore character, they did, and so with the Mogu, they did explain all about them. They had a lot of storyline in that. They weren't just suddenly pulled out of someone's ass. There was actually some decent quests and storylines that led up to explaining what it was all about. But people didn't appreciate it. And it wasn't just the panda thing. Which it was for some, but it wasn't just that. So I think it would put them off doing it again, which is a shame. I mean, the fact is we have had no new lore since. We've had 2 expansions, WoD and Legion, and there hasn't been any new lore. The best that I can hope for from the next expansion is because they haven't really properly fleshed out Old Gods in the game. We know quite a lot about Old Gods purely from books, like the Chronicles, but also the novels. We don't know very much about them from the game. So the best hope I have is that they expand that, which they probably have to now, with no Legion anymore, in the next expansion. Yeah, the best patch trailer. There's been some very nice patch trailers, I think. The best one, and one I missed, of course, because I wasn't playing at the time, was the actual ICC one, where you had Arthur's father, Meneth. Who was it? Obviously Menethil was his surname. What's his name? But anyway, doing that whole exposition thing as Arthas reaches for his Frostmourne. Terranus, thank you very much. That was it. I think that was the best one I've seen. The sort of as a patch type video for a raid. But there have been some quite good ones over the years. Yes. Well, I thought Mop was very, very well done. You know, in terms of the storyline side of it and the raids and stuff like that, I didn't like dailies and I didn't like massive amounts of rep grind in a really short time. I mean, the reps that we've had in Legion have actually been okay because there's been a few of them, but you haven't felt the need to get to Exalted on them really quickly. The only one where there was any sort of impetus to get rep, I think, was Nightfallen, so that you could unlock the dungeons and stuff like that in Suramar. But the rest of it didn't feel like a rush to Exalted. So that was quite good. Whereas in Mop, it was not the same. You were having to rep grind for the first couple of weeks. Yeah, Mop was superb. It was absolutely fantastic. I don't care about any content that's as long as if it's not required. I don't actively want content to be good because some people might like it. Basically, I quite like it because for me it's the raid. I like leveling. Usually the leveling content I'm quite appreciative of. And I like the raids. If it was just that, I mean, those are the things. Like for me, it sounds stupid. Like WoD was an undoubted disaster of an expansion. But for me personally, it was almost perfect because one, the leveling content was really good. That was enjoyable. And two, the raid content was really good. That's all I want out of it. That's it. And I wasn't required to do a load of other stuff. Professions were dead easy. There was no effort required for anything else. So for me, it was the perfect expansion. Even though I understand that overall, it was a disaster. My favourite WoD levelling zone. I would say Nagrand, I think. Quite liked Nagrand. Because there was some interesting storylines in there as well. I didn't really bother about gold farming in WoD. I just used to jump around my fountain. As soon as the WoW token came in, that was my gold sorted. Every time, like for example, when I get to Exalted with Army of the Light, I'm just going to buy a couple of WoW tokens. That's my Warforged, like my golem mount done. No problem. Spires. Now, Spires I liked as well. That's a close second. What I really liked about Spires was the first time you went in. So the first time you went in, and then you had that sort of beam. Firing. I loved that. That was fantastic. But the actual quests, there were some areas where the quests were really good. My problem with Spires of Iraq is that some of the quest lines I quite enjoyed doing again, but quite a lot of them were tedious when I was doing it the second, third, fourth and so on time. Because that was the downside of having not enough content. I had so many alts. I didn't just have one of each class. I had multiple of quite a few classes. I had like 4 paladins, 3 monks, did I? Or something like that. Yeah, I know, yeah. Yeah, that's the laser's actually doing the damage that you come across later on. But I absolutely loved that entrance to Spires of Iraq. Well, you could sort of go into Caribou. It just wasn't set up as what people were expecting and what was sort of suggested, which would be the Alliance City. That didn't happen, and Bladespire, I think, was supposed to be the Horde one, wasn't it? Yes. So they fell by the wayside at the point at which they decided to abandon everything, and we got some crappy camp on that silly PvP island instead. That was fun. Here's your new city for this expansion. A cottage, a hut, and a load of mud. Well, you weren't wrong at the time, probably, because that was what was supposed to happen. Also, Tanan Jungle, obviously we sort of went through it as a starting bit, but in terms of a zone, I also got the impression that that was supposed to be a zone that came out at the beginning as well, I think. I think Tanan was supposed to be what Suramar ended up as, which is a level cap zone that was nonetheless supposed to be there from the start. At the same time, you always get a fair amount of rumour going around these things. Some of the things Blizzard will deny just because they don't really like to say, do you know what, yes, we ended up dropping everything we had planned for WoD because, you know, it turned into such a dead donkey. But on the other hand, you know, some of it will just be genuine speculation. But there was really nothing. But as I say, it sort of suited me. Because the raiding and the levelling is all I needed. If there's a Vashir zone in the next expansion, yeah, I'm not keen. But you've got to say probably fairly likely. I mean, there's a few reasons, I suppose, why it's fairly likely. One is, I don't think that Vashir itself was an unpopular zone. So it's not like Blizzard can say, well, we did a water zone before and people really didn't like it. I got the impression that people... I mean, I didn't like it. But I got the impression that it was not considered unpopular. So, you know, they might well say that people are up for that. The fact that it's going to be Kul Tiras related, which is the one thing we sort of know, because, as I say, we saw that armour. Again, adds verisimilitude towards that. The fact that N'Zoth is being mentioned, again, and it's likely to, almost certainly Old Gods. Again, and he's supposed to be in the sea, and it's all leading to there's probably a underwater zone. Plus the anchor, even though the anchor is made out of, because that's what people were saying when I did that thing on the PTR about the Fell Slate anchor, even though it's made of like Legion products, you know, you think to yourself, of what use is this in the game? Especially bringing it out in 7.3, like there's no water on Argus. What use is this anchor? Unless, of course, there's an underwater zone, in which case maybe it'd be useful. One thing you really liked about MOP was it moved far away from the generic Western European Viking fantasy tropes. Went left of field. Well, I thought it was a good addition. A different cultural slant on it was quite useful as well. Although that doesn't always go right, does it? There's and it's like the Warcraft movie, isn't it? That did pretty well in Europe, did really well in Asia, didn't do at all well in North America. So that's, I mean, that's probably a cultural thing as well. So I don't know whether MOP had similar thing. I don't know how it was taken in China, whether it was, you know, whether they liked it or not. I don't know whether there's any difference in appreciation between Europe and North America. Make a PvP only underwater zone. Well, as long as I don't have to go there, I don't care. I mean, wouldn't that be a thing though? Actually, that is something they could do, because PvP players have complained for a little bit, possibly not unreasonably, although there seems to be quite a lot of them, that there's been no new battleground. Well, imagine if they made an underwater battleground. That'd teach them. Oh, I'd love to make that announcement at BlizzCon. Okay, you PvP players, you want a new battleground, don't you? Yeah. Here we go. Underwater battleground. Let's see the rogues stealth their way through that. Well, Mahal, you won't even be able to fly, will you? Until 8 or 9 months in. You won't be able to mount out and fly over it. I mean, you might be able to use a water strider mount. I mean, that's another thing, actually, I suppose. If they're going to do a water-based expansion, then I'm not saying every zone will be underwater, but like, you can't have more than one underwater zone. That'd be silly. But it would give them an excuse to... Although they don't like the water strider, do they? They tried to ban it. There was a period in Alpha, Legion Alpha, where they stopped the water strider working. It like didn't work on Broken Isles because they sort of felt that they didn't want, because Ian Hazacostas even made a snide remark about, you know, people getting on the mount. When I say mount, I mean water strider, because they didn't like the fact that people all use the same mount. Even though there was a ring you could get from a quest that made you be able to stand on water anyway. So, like, you didn't even need the water strider. Blizzard made a good point that Blizzard shot themselves in the foot by not making the water strider Pandaria only when it came out. I don't think so. I think, like, what was there in Pandaria that made use of a water strider that is not exactly the same in every expansion since? I don't see what the big deal is. Water... You need water there because it'd be really silly if you created a load of new zones and there was no rivers or lakes and stuff like that. You know, it's a feature you expect. But you don't want to be inconvenienced. And actually, they owe us the water strider. If they won't give us flying, the least they can do is let us walk on water. You know, at least. Because it's not fun wading through it, is it? No one finds that fun. So in actual fact, I think the only thing they've shot themselves in the foot with is moaning about it. What they should have done is made a different version for the different expansions. You know, instead of expecting people, newer players especially, to go back to MOP and earn that rep and get the mount that way, just make another version of it. Do a Legion version of it. And when the next expansion comes out, I would hope that they'll get over themselves and they'll do a Kulturas version of it. Because why not? They did it in WoD. What did they do in WoD? Did they? Hang on. Was there a version in WoD? Am I forgetting about it then? Wait. Where'd you get it from in WoD then if there's another version of that? Because I'm pretty sure... Oh, Garrison Fishing. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I was going to say, I'm pretty sure people go to MOP to get it. Oh, yes, it was Garrison Fishing. I can well understand why. Easier to get the rep up in MOP than it is to piss about with your Garrison. In fact, that's the one area I didn't do on my Garrison. I didn't do the fishing. It's too much of a pain. Yeah, I think I remember now, actually, now. You say that. The MOP one will be more convenient. But even though it's still a rep grind, you still have to get your rep. But yeah, I think where they shoot themselves in the foot, if anything, is in not bringing out a different version for each expansion. You know, make one that looks a bit different. I mean, there's that mount, which I still can't remember how to get it. It's a rare mount drop. There's a jellyfish mount, basically, isn't there, in Legion? That drops from something. Not a guarantee. I think it's a rare chance to drop off something. I've completely forgotten now. I mean, that could have been a water walking mount. So, you know, there's certain things that when people really like it, it's almost like, you know, you do something that unintentionally people really like, and that's it, Mahal. I think that's the one I'm thinking of. Because I'm pretty sure what I'm thinking of drops off something as a small chance. But yeah, when someone hijack, well, a little bit, we're still going for, we're 3/4 of the way through. So when people come up with something that you know, sorry, Blizzard come up with something that the players really like, why try and stifle it? Just go with it, I would say. It's just, they just seem to have this killjoy department. It's like, oh no, people are having too much fun. Can't have that. What can we do about it? The shark from the underlight angler, okay. I mean, I remember when I came back in Cataclysm and I fished up the sea turtle, and I just thought it was a thing because I fished it up almost immediately, and I just thought, oh, okay, this is just a thing in the game now. And then for quite a long time afterwards, people were, you know, I eventually got to the impression that people were considering it a very rare mount to drop. I just thought it was fairly standard, just to help you out with the underwater zone and all the rest of it. I know you got the seahorse, but yeah. Oh. So much Legion stuff I haven't really done. And I know I won't do a lot of it because, as I say, if something's nothing to do with raiding, I don't usually put that much effort into it. Sometimes I accidentally get bored and do something, but a lot of the time. Is it an instant cast thing then? Because I'm not standing there. I assume it is. If you're going to bother to use it on the Harjatan pool, I usually find the best solution to that is for a Death Knight just to do Path of Frost. Which we could have done with in Serpent Shrine Cavern, because I remember there was a trash skip you could do in Serpent Shrine that involved as your shaman trying to put water walking on everyone, and this is when it used a reagent as well. So you had to kill murlocs to get it. What would be good for a Ret on the Tier 2 Crucible? I have the list. I'll be doing the Ret Q&A obviously on Saturday, but you know, in the meantime. I can't remember which of these are the holy. Some of them you can guess. Torment the Weak is the best one. But the other good ones are like Infusion of Light, Securing the Light, and Shadow Blind. They're the 4 really good ones. Gives you water walking too. What, shark water walking? I would pay money to see that. Oh, okay. Now I've got it written down, like typed out. But if you've got a pen, I'll do it more slowly. So, Torment the Weak, I think it's called. Some of the... I think these are up to date as well. I have to double check because they did do some last minute changes. Hold on, let me get the last minute changes on the Netherlight Crucible as well. Yeah, Torment the Weak. It's been nerfed, but it's still like very, very good for us. Because haste and crit benefit it. And what do we have? Haste and crit. So Torment the Weak. Obviously, it's going to these are going to depend on your own individual stats and things like that. And you know, I sim these. Hi, Red Dewang. Oh, such awkward names. Sorry, what else was there? Infusion of Light is a good one. Again, so Infusion of Light, that one's benefits from haste. Well, after this, I am actually going to put a video up, not only advertising the live rec Q&A, but under the aegis of, I'm going to talk about the Netherlight Crucible, because obviously it's not very fair to make people wait for this Saturday when the Netherlight Crucible would have been out for some time. So I'm not going to be cheeky and say best rec Paladin ones, but I will be semi-cheeky, potentially. But yes, I am intending to do that. What else is a good one? Securing the Light. Again, affected by... Most of these are affected by haste, which just makes them quite good for us. Because we tend to have a decent amount of haste. My haste has been going down, unfortunately, of late. No, I don't do clicky baity still. But at the same time, because the other problem is if I do that as well, I mean, I am going to be talking about it. If I do that, then people will be saying, oh, then I'll suddenly get a load of people going, oh, should I get this or this? And it's like, just get one of them. Just get one. So, and then what's the last one? What haven't I said? Securing the Lights, did I say that? I think I said that. Oh, Shadow Blind, that's it. Shadow Blind. They've already nerfed it. They've already nerfed these. Sure, they can nerf them again, but it would be very bad form to nerf them twice in 1 week. Light speed. Light speed's just the movement speed, isn't it? It's not that good. Didn't sim brilliantly for me. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not a negative effect on it. Some of them are like literally useless. It's not useless. 500, yeah. It's not, for me, it's not sim like, again, it might depend on your haste value. If you haven't got very much haste, maybe it sims a bit higher. But for me, it was like one of the lower ones. It wasn't simming great for me. Well, no, it's not clickbait if you deliver. But again, it's like, they might be expecting more detail than actually is. That being said, when people do post videos of these best blah, 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 then, yeah. And then, of course, there's some fights when obviously a bit of movement speed, if it, you know, at the right time. Like, because it was reduced a bit, wasn't it? Light speed. So the haste has been reduced to like 500 now, hasn't it? Well, I would like to get more because I have of late been losing a bit of haste again. Yeah, been nerfed a bit. A lot of these things have been nerfed. But occasionally some things have been increased. Like securing the light was increased. That's looking quite tasty now. Well, what it should tell you, Mal, is that your mastery has gone to hell. But, I mean, everyone else will obviously just have to go to their... Hope their theory crafters have come up with a nice list. I imagine someone on the... If they haven't done it already, let me just double check. At some point... Because there is a special thread on the Ret forums where... Earth is going through stuff to update the Ret FAQ. So it will go up on there, you would think, fairly quickly, given that it's live now in North America at least. And I'm sure other class Discords will be the same. Should we have a look at a random one? Let's have a look at True Shot Lodge. I don't know my way around a load of things. Yeah, apparently on the Hunter one there is an update for Netherlight Crucible. So there you go. So other ones presumably will be getting updates as well. In that case, it's just a case of going there. Because the other thing as well, you have to be a little bit careful. It's not like you can just choose. So what you get when you go to the second tier down the Netherlight Crucible, you get a Holy one and a Shadow one. In theory, you get to choose which you want. But in practice, you have to be careful. Because whichever one you choose cuts out one of the traits in the tier below it. Because you have to follow a path. So if you take the one on the left on the second tier, you cannot take the one on the extreme right on the third tier. So you have to sort of think about the overall thing. Even though it can be a bit of a gamble because, especially on the third relic, you're not going to be getting that, the trait on that for quite a while. And you might think, well, by then I might have got an upgrade anyway. So, yeah. So I do need to do a video on it just to sort of forewarn people at least, which is my intention. As I say, when I finish this, about half an hour, then that is my intention to get straight onto that. But it will only be a rough guidance because you can't do anything hard and fast. Unfortunately, well, I'll tell people you can do it on raid bots. It does affect the relic traits for tier 3 because... hang on, right. Let's have a, let's see if I can show you. Let's just make a right mess of my screen here. So if I... Right, here we are on the PTR. Let's shove that up there. Hang on. So, let's open this up. So this is the character that I copied across yesterday. So I've given it the plus thingy item levels. And I'm allowed to select one of these. I haven't selected them yet. I am allowed to select one. If I select this shadow one here, which is Torment the Weak, which is one of my good ones. Okay, I'll probably be wanting that. I mean, you can see here it's fine because this is my BIS trait. So I'd be able to get that. No problem. It doesn't matter which of these I choose. Because my BIS trait is in the middle, I am laughing. No problem. But let's say, this is god-awful, by the way. But let's say this was my BIS trait. You can see the way the things are lighting up here. I cannot get this and this. So let's have a look for another relic, just in case. So here we go. Right. This is my BIS trait. This is what I want down here. But I can only get that if I take this. So I have to choose. If I want that, I have to choose that. But then you sort of look, well, which is the best between those two? So Infusion of Light and Chaotic Darkness. Now, fortunately, Infusion of Light is also a really good one. This is what I mean about the look. I have looked on the PTR. If these were what I got tomorrow when it goes live, I would be deliriously happy. Because that's a good one. That's that crap one. But it doesn't matter because that I would just go down, dumb, brilliant, perfect. On this one, let's have a look. I mean, this hasn't got a BIS trait, but it's got that. That's okay. It's mediocre, but it's all right. Both of these are pretty mediocre as well. So this is a mediocre relic, so I don't really care. I would just go, die that. But then this one is really good as well, because that's a really good one, that's a really good one. So my holy relics, do you remember what I said when I got the 845 item level 1 last week? Well, that's in my bags. Let me try and find it. Oh, God, my bags. Oh, don't say I put it in the bank. I might have put it in the bank. Oh, no, it's here, look. So you can actually have a sneaky peek at it. And I can see, look, there's nothing stunning here, right? Infusion of Light is okay. So it's got, so those two are both pretty good. That's rubbish. Actually, no, that's not bad. But it's a toss-up between, you know, which, you know, is it better than that? It's a bit 50-50. It's not a clear-cut thing. But yeah, if I got these tomorrow, I would be very happy. You know, I'd have all 3 relics would have Wrath of the Ashbringer on it, as well as having some. I'd have second Biss as well on my holy relics. It's only the fire relic that would be mediocre, and even that, it's mediocre. It's not bad. It's just mediocre. But when I was on my other character, they were all shocking. They were all absolutely dreadful. Are the tier 2 bonuses permanent? Yes, they are. So look what happens here. So let's say I click on this here. You get a message. Learning this trait will lock you to this path. This can't be undone. Accept or cancel. Cancel it. Doesn't really matter. I mean, this is on a PTR. I don't care. Hi, Retpal. So it's permanent. Whatever you click on, you ain't changing it. It's permanent. So let's get rid of that now. So, yeah. You've got to be quite careful about what you do select. That's what I mean. You don't have to agonize between 2. I mean, let's pick 2 that are quite. Until you put. Oh yeah, when you put a new relic in, you get a completely new, randomly determined set of traits. Choose middle no matter what. No, you. But whatever you select is... I mean, you've got to choose one side anyway. There is no middle one in the second tier. It's left or right. But it is permanent. So if you choose something that sounds like a good idea, but turns out it's an absolute pony, then you've blown your load. The best thing to do, I mean, you don't agonize between 2, because remember, even if you see a sim list, the actual values will vary from fight to fight, and you change your gear and it varies them as well. The best thing to do is just find out your 2 best for each type of relic. So Ret Paladins, it's quite easy. We've got Holy and Shadow. Those are our 2 things that we're going to get there. Well, everyone's going to get Holy and Shadow, but you know, just find out what are the 2 best sort of light ones and what are the 2 best shadow ones, because that's what it's supposed to be, like light and shadow. And then just hope you get one of them. Because the thing is, if you're looking at the... Because I would split it into 3 tiers. Find out which are your 2 best for each of those. Then, after that, you can sort of recognise, just assume that if it looks completely useless for DPS, then it's useless for DPS. And then just assume that anything that does damage but isn't in those 2 best ones is a mediocre one. And if you have to pick one of those, you pick one of those. Will Blizz decrease the amount of RNG in the next expansion? I don't know. I don't think they care one way or the other about RNG. I think what they care about is that people want to do lots of their content over and over again. And they can't be bothered to think up of better ways to do it. And I think perhaps they overestimate how much they actually need people to do. That's my opinion, of course. They will have a different opinion. But yeah, I don't think they really see... The Netherlight Crucible, put it this way, the Netherlight Crucible for me is the worst form of RNG. I'm not opposed to RNG. There's certain things, like I say, I did a video, didn't I, that's good RNG, and there's certain things that's bad RNG. The Netherlight Crucible is the worst RNG imaginable. And if they think that it's a good idea, they don't see RNG as a problem at all in any form. It's as straightforward as that, I think. So I wouldn't pin her. I mean, what I would say is that the system, you know, they will obviously change systems. They always change systems for every expansion. Now, it might just be by sheer dumb luck that some of the things that you don't like might end up being changed, and then you'll be perfectly happy. Or it might be that things you don't like are the things that Blizzard thought works the best, and they keep those for the next expansion. and add more of it into the bargain. We probably won't properly. In fact, it'll be a very long time before we properly find out, because even when they announced it at BlizzCon, all they'll announce are the very shiny aspects of the expansion. They're not going to get into the nitty-gritty. And even when the open alpha is out and people are able to report on it, even then, there'll only be so much in the game. A lot of the game won't actually be in yet. So, you know, it'll be a far cry from what ends up going live. So it'll be very difficult, unless Blizzard increase, which they might, because Ian Hazacostas, as I say, the next expansion will be the expansion where he will have been the game director all the way through the open development at any rate, because he only became game director after Legion launched. And he seems to have been fairly, you know, active in promoting the idea of doing like interviews and stuff like that. So we might get more useful information from the development process of the next expansion than we did for Legion. But we'll have to see on that one. Because I always say it'd be nice to know what they're thinking, because they'll sometimes say, you know, if you're criticising ideas, you know, you need to be a bit more constructive. It's sometimes very difficult to be constructive if you don't know the reason why a particular feature was put in the first place. Because you can say it's bad and you can give you reasons for it being bad. You can't really be constructive without knowing what problem do they intend to solve with it. And they often don't say what they see that's good about it. They just say things like, we don't see it as an issue, or we think it's a great piece of content. They don't say why. And so if you don't know what their motivation is, you can't possibly come up with anything to sort of say, well, you could do it in this way and it would still do what you want it to do and maybe what other people want it to do as well. Drop me pen. Oops. But I mean, how long is it now? We've got about 6 weeks till BlizzCon. I can't remember exactly when BlizzCon comes out now. End of October, isn't it? Do I think Blizzard still has the you think you do but you don't mentality? Yes. Because who coined that phrase? The person who is now game director. I absolutely think that. I think there is very definitely a them and us attitude amongst certain development teams. You got to remember there's lots of different development teams. But I think amongst some of the development teams, there is a them and you siege mentality to them. Where they see... Because it must be quite difficult for them, to be fair. Because on the one hand, whenever they say anything publicly, you've got like 3 groups of people. You've got the White Knights who will just support them come what may, and attack anyone who doesn't. You've got the people on the other hand who are just the trolls, who will just attack them come whatever they do, and you actually wonder why these people are playing the game, if indeed they are. And then you've got the people in the middle who will sometimes appreciate stuff they do and criticise other stuff they do. But all Blizzard are going to see is some criticism comes in, but they see other people supporting them, so they just think to themselves, as you would, oh, the people criticising us are just the trolls, and these other guys are supporting us, so therefore what we must be doing is correct. So there's no impetus to question whether they're getting it right or not, because there's enough people will just cheer them no matter what they do. He was involved in Latest Jerks. Yeah, I remember that. That was a long time ago now. But I quite like, on many levels, Ian Hazacostas. I think, you know, I have to remember that he is the guy who has decided to be more open with the community and to do these live Q&As that they do and stuff like that. So, you know, I think he should be sort of, that should be appreciated, because that didn't used to happen. They never used to do things like that. The closest they used to get to any sort of interview like that was at like conventions and stuff. which is still the great, obviously, trip, because, you know, obviously they get to choose their questions when they do their live Q&As, because they're not actually responding just like it is here. They produce questions that have already come in for them to answer. To the point where you sometimes wonder why they do it live, actually, because they never respond to the chat. I don't blame them if you've ever tried to see the chat in those things. But yeah, they never do. So actually, there's no point in it being live, really, is there? They might as well just put it on their YouTube channel. But I suppose maybe they think they get 2 platforms at once by doing it live. They get it on Twitch and then they get it on YouTube later or something. But yeah, it's only about 6 weeks until we get to find out, because they have to announce it, BlizzCon, don't they? And then, like I say, my main apprehension will be not so much what's coming in the expansion. Lore, yeah. I think sometimes what he's trying to do is, like, you know, PR. He's a PR guy. He's supposed to do this. But I think sometimes he tries to be helpful by creating a scenario of a player as if, oh yeah, that's really good, isn't it? And sometimes it just doesn't come out well at all. Have I tested Simcraft the Crucible stuff yet? Yes, I have. It's a bit of a pain. But I have, yeah. I've run sims on my character for the different tier 2 traits. Which is, I've got a list of, as I say, I've written down a list that work for me. I think they'll generally be, I don't think they'll be very dissimilar. Because I noticed Fardian also did a list on, he hasn't, I don't think he's put it out for public consumption yet. He's the guy who writes Icy Veins on the Ret Paladin Discord. His was a slightly different order for a few things, but it was largely the same. Did I like the reforged system? I was fairly neutral to it. I think it would serve a purpose bringing it back now. You know, if I was to be asked, should they bring reforging back now, I would say yes, because I think it's needed. But at the time, it was just something that you did to solve a problem. And although it's a different problem now, because at the time it was to make sure you got hit cap and expertise cap. Whereas now it's a different problem, but it's still as useful. It's a bit of a pain. How come? Because whenever in Simcraft, if you're actually using Simcraft to do anything with relics, means having to get the relic code is huge, and to get anything like to change it, you've got to be quite careful you're changing the right bit. And there's now separate codes to deal with all the extra stuff from the Crucible. So it was already complicated to do. If you don't do it on a regular basis, especially, you had to be quite careful and take it. I mean, it's one of those things. If you do enough of them, you start to get a bit quicker at it. But then now there's more stuff. Oh, Simpamut. Yes. Again, like Raid Bots also has a feature for it. It's just for some reason it's not really working sensibly for me. But I just got the values from someone posted them on the Ret Q&A. Not the Ret Q&A, sorry, the Ret Discord. But I think it was just in the Templar area. And I just copied the codes down and then sort of did them one by one in mine. And just saw what they came out like. Relic generator. Since 7.3, I think the export mods have been messed up. Harder to copy. Okay. I'm not sure. I didn't actually use it this time, actually. I sometimes Like Simple is actually quite useful for stuff like this, ironically. But I'm so used to not using it that I just do this. I didn't think about it at the time. But, as I say, what you're going to have to hope is that raid bots works properly because that's going to be the easiest way for most people to deal with it. Oh, it is actually now working for me. Hallelujah. So, okay, raid bots is now... It wasn't yesterday. It's now working for me. So, you can actually sim and see for yourself. So, raid bots is going to be the easiest way to do it. Good, great. But for now, all you really need... See, the thing is, you should sort of know which relic traits are best for you. So it's really just a case of between the light and shadow. I mean, the situations you have to think to yourself are, if your bis trait out of the 3 you get at the bottom is in the middle, then it doesn't matter. Just pick whichever is best, light or shadow. If it's on one extreme end, then you need to say to yourself, okay, which is best, the non-bis light or shadow and the bis trait, or the bis trait, sorry, the bis light or shadow and the second bis trait down there. So you're only really comparing 2 things. That's all you need to do. You can do it 1 relic at a time if necessary. The light versus shadow, they're just... There's a light and a shadow thing, that's all there is. There's always a light and a shadow. Ironically, it reduces the RNG. It's the one feature of the Netherlight Crucible that reduces RNG. It's light on one side and shadow on the other. There is no middle on the second tier. Hold on, let me get the thing back up again. Where has it gone? So, shove this back over here. There is no middle. There's this and there's this. There's nothing in the middle. The only one where there's a middle one is on the 3rd tier down here. And as I say, if you want that one, doesn't matter which of these 2 you take, you can get it. But if you want one on either side, if you want that one, you've got to take that. And if you want that one, you've got to take that. So then you have to decide. Let's say that was my bis trait. That is not the bis out of these 2. Out of these 2, for me, that's the best one. So I would have to sim, is it better to take this combination? Or is it better to take this combination? So I'd have to choose between... I'd plug those 2 things into raid bots and see which was best. So that's how it looks. The Netherlight Crucible. Right, okay. So what will happen is, tomorrow... You will get... In fact, I'll show you exactly how it works. Hold on. Let's do this again. I'm going to copy yet another version of this character. So. I'm going to have hundreds of Thetes. Right. There's the new one. So... Crucible... Oh, I can't do that. Crucible Monk. Okay, fine. It's going to be Crucible Monkey too many letters. Never mind. So I don't have to do the quest to unlock it, because as long as one character has unlocked the Netherlight Crucible, all the characters on your account have it unlocked. So I can just go straight, without doing any pre-quests, I can just go straight to the Vindicar. Because everything has been unlocked because I've done it on one character. So all the teleporters and everything like that. Oh, for goodness sake. All the keybinds always get messed up on the PTR for some reason. Right. So you can... So you can see here, because this is the character I've got from live, I haven't got the shadow one yet, only the light, but I can still use it. So the first thing that happens is, like at the moment, I have got a 957 item level weapon. So the first thing I do is I give myself 5 item levels, 962. You can see it's generating them because it's generating them randomly as soon as I click on it. It wasn't there before. What's what am I doing? Another 5 item levels, 967. And another 5 item levels, 972 weapon. With an average item level 936. So for paladins this is amazing because I have so many abilities that work off weapon damage. So then this one, because you can see here, I need to be artifact level 66 to get these. I'm artifact level 63. So, but I can get one here and I can get one here. So I go here. Ah, this is a load of rubbish. Great, I've got a bad one again. So, murderous intent. Securing the light is a good one. So then I have a look. What's best here? That's a load of crap. So is that. So on this one, there's no question about it. That's the best out of the two there, and this is the best out of... Oh, I can't get it yet. But when I get down to there, I will get that to that. Okay? So that's that sorted. Then I would do this one. I'd look. Chaotic Darkness. Infusion of Light. That's actually one of my good ones, isn't it? Where's my list gone again? Yes, it is. I thought it was. So that's a good one. So then I look down here. That's crap. That one is my second BIS trait. And that one. So I'm going to go for this one. Easy. Do I want to learn that trait? Yes, I do. Because that's the one I'd go for. Because I could have gone for either of those. And then on this one, I can't do anything yet. You'll notice these are all fairly mediocre, these ones. So I'm really annoyed that other character got really good ones. I think I've used up my good luck. But that's how it's going to work, basically. That's what's going to happen tomorrow. So you sort of need to know which of the light shadow traits... oh, I've selected it, that's why. Are good for you. Okay? But at this point... So then the next thing I could unlock is that when I get to 66. How do you re-roll the traits? You put another relic in. So, where is it now? So this relic, you can have a spy of a relic. If you're not sure, you can have a little look. What would happen to it? This is what I would get. And then you think to yourself, that's crap. That's crap. That's, it's all right. You look at that. That one's good. So you look at this, you go, okay. So I might look at this and go... These aren't amazing. Maybe what I'll do is actually... Hold on. Because this is a PTR copy anyway, I can do what I like. So I'm going to put this in here because it's an item level upgrade and it's got a slightly better thing. And now I'll go back to here and I've got to click on this again to get my item level back. But when I'm 66, then I get to choose one. I'll get to choose that and then I'll get that. So... But yeah, once you've made your decision, you cannot change it without putting another relic in. It's a very... Yes, it is another level RNG. In fact, it's another couple of levels of RNG with some whipped RNG and a cherry-shaped RNG put on top. Basically. And the only thing they've done to smooth out the RNG is by having these second tier split into light and shadow means that technically speaking you're going to have fewer extremes, and also you can't get a double trait. So whatever trait this is my Bis trait, Wrath of the Ashbringer. There was no chance of getting another one down there. You will never get the same trait choice down here as you got on the original. What do I... Hold on. What are the best traits? Well, it depends on spec. Different specs will have a different view of that. For Retribution Paladins, I have gone through that in this video. I will go through it again on a video I'm going to put out as soon as this is finished, which we are sort of come to the end to. So I'm going to obviously give it a few minutes, as I always do, if people want to throw some extra things in there. But as soon as we're finished here, I am going to do the video on that. And that will be coming out before this, because this basically will come out on YouTube tomorrow, because it takes hours to render it and then it takes hours more to upload it. So in reality, it'll be hours before this goes on YouTube. So I might as well use the time to do another video before it and put that out tonight. But yeah, we've sort of got to the time, so a few more minutes if anyone wants to throw anything out. And then, yeah, I'll get off and do that, do exactly that. Does ES still... It doesn't seem bad for me, it just doesn't seem good enough. It's like on par on a pure single target fight. I did actually use it. On Sunday, I made a cock-up of the last couple of bosses, though. But on Sunday, because it was pointed out to me in a stream last week that my heroic logs had taken a bit of a nosedive for two reasons. First of all, now that they've done it in 7.3, they've... SCADA or recount details. But out of those two, SCADA. So in 7.3, so your logs in 7.3, because I was dragging alts through as well and having to sort of, in the first part of a fight, play both of them, because I have to do some damage with one to get myself on the loot table, then kill it to get it out of harm's way. That knackers a key part of my DPS as a ret. So my heroic logs had sort of plummeted a bit. So I went in on Sunday to do heroic without dragging any alts through. It's like, no, they're not coming. Just to focus on my damage to get it back up. And on Goroth, I used Execution Sentence and Spectral Betrayal as well. And that was all right. That did okay. So yeah, I was okay. All the way up to Avatar. Unfortunately, on Avatar, I got smacked by the boss, which auto-bubbled me. And it turns out I taunted. I did try and blame the tank. I did taunt. I do occasionally do this. I apologised. And then, at least I think I apologised. I at least owned up to it. But then what happened is, about a minute or so later, I did a thing where I tried to stay in and use my bubble. But of course my bubble was on cooldown because I had auto-procced and I'd forgotten about it. So I died on Avatar. So that was Avatar knackered. And then on Kill Jaden, I got myself blown off the platform. So that screwed as well. So I cocked. So I still need to get myself a decent log on Avatar and Kill Jaden in 7.3 to rescue what were for those quite bad logs. But the other ones have now been rescued. They're now much more respectable. Got back into the oranges. So yeah. So anyway, there we go. How was DPS with Execution Sentence? I can't remember. Let's just have a quick look here. I'll just have a look quickly. If I could live anywhere in Azeroth, Outlaw, or Draenor without the dangers, where? Where do you think has the best internet connection? It would require broadband fibre. Otherwise, I'm not interested. Right, let's have a look. Goroth. So my Execution Sentence did about 20.4% of my damage. It was a little bit behind Templar's Verdict. Ulduar, do you think Ulduar's got good Wi-Fi? Gnome Rigon would be terrible. No, I'm not living with gnomes. No. Do these talks more often? I do these talks every week. In fact, which one is this? Hold on. How long have I been doing these now? What was last week's? Because I number them. This is the 18th one I have done. Oh yes, I suppose. Yeah, it's got interplanetary network. Yeah, I suppose it was quite good. I'll just go into Algernon. What is it? What's he called? Algernon? Didn't do it. Wasn't playing at the time. Yeah, go into his room. There'll be no names in there either. Yeah, I'll live there, just in that part of Ulduar. Not the part where there's any gnomes. So that will do. Okay, so we'll call that a day then. I will be back on streaming tomorrow, where I will actually be doing some raiding, because it's farm night. I don't know how much. Do you think they've learnt something with this expansion? Yes, I do. Very quickly, just to end off. I think the way they've approached 7.3 shows that they've learnt, and I think they've definitely made improvements to some things throughout the expansion. They are learning, no question about it. The thing is, they're actually very clever people. When they recognise that there's a problem, they will solve it. The problem is, they don't always recognise there's a problem, in which case they're not going to solve what they don't see as a problem. They're not going to fix a clock that's already working. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So they will only fix it if they think it's broken. If they think it's broken, they will fix it. They know what they're doing. But anyway, thank you very much for coming. I will see you tomorrow or next week or whenever. See you later.